Hello, everyone. It's another Friday and it's 1 p.m. And thank you so much for taking the poll and letting me know that this is the time that works best for everybody. If somebody can just quickly say hi in the comments or something to make sure that, so I know that, yes, I am, you can hear me and you can see me, that would be great. But yeah, so let's get started. So today's topic, as I shared a few days ago, is all about creating psychological safety at work. And it's about making sure that when we are going into work, how can we develop cultures and leaders and actually bringing our whole selves and making sure that we're included and feeling lifted and empowered. Okay. So let's get started. So I usually start off by sharing this quote of from Oprah that I really love, and she talks about how everybody that she's interviewed, and that is ranges from athletes to celebrities to movie stars to politicians. After the camera stops, everyone asks the same question: Was I okay? How was I? Did I do well? Do you think people will like me? And that sort of speaks to this internal psychological need that we have in all of us, this desire to be accepted, respected, and included for who we are and who we are authentically and what we bring to the table as authentic human beings. But oftentimes, we when we are showing up to work, we feel, and this kind of comes in from like society or like culture, etc. We feel like we have to hide bits and pieces of ourselves in order to feel respected and included. We need to like sort of leave bits and pieces of ourselves at the door when we show up to work because it's not really accepted. It's sort of like, our personal life. We shouldn't really be talking about it because it won't be seen in the right light, or people might think that we have too much going on, or they might judge us, or it might somehow hinder our career path in some way, shape, or form. So we start to hide that, and we start to sort of like feel like we can't really be ourselves. And also, we sometimes have multiple identities that are not reflected at work. For example, as a woman of color, and I have often felt when I was in my corporate life that I didn't really see a lot of understanding of my culture and my upbringing and my unique identities. So that also creates a bit of an unconscious barrier for us to be able to bring ourselves, our whole selves, to work. So let's talk about a few, tidbits that I've learned along the way, and I share with my clients in my speaking and advocacy work. But how can we develop those kinds of inclusive cultures, and how can we cultivate leadership that's authentic? And when we talk about leadership, when I'm talking about leadership in the true essence of the word, because leadership is not about job titles or business cards. Leadership is not about climbing hierarchy in a company. Leadership really is about speaking up for dialogue, speaking up and sparking dialogue for change, and speaking up for progress, and cultivating action and spurring action for progress. So when we're doing that, how can we do that from a place of purpose and from a place of a real authenticity and inclusion? So diversity is really about getting the right people in the room, right? And a lot of companies have those kinds of diversity quotas, like we need this many people of color, want this many women, we want this many people from an indigenous background, we want this many people from LGBTQ plus communities, etc. We all have, like, they all have those sort of quotas. But you can bring all those people into a room, you can get all those people into into a boardroom or a meeting room. But if we're not giving those people the kind of environment and psychological safety to be able to really voice their ideas and concerns and who they are, then that diversity is really of not a lot of value, right? Because if people come in and they're expected to be the same like everyone else, then what's the point of bringing in different people? So how can you create that kind of environment which enables people to really show up and build this kind of culture where they can really be who they are? So some of the things that I want to share are, let's start off with um, being authentic as leaders ourselves. And by authentic, I mean having the courage to be vulnerable, to be as true to ourselves as possible. Because we cannot expect our employees and our teams to be true to who they are if we don't have the courage to show up as true to who we are. If we are going to hide behind our business cards and our job titles and sort of show up as a stoic person that has no chinks in their armor, then that's what our team will expect as well. And all the amazing leaders that I have had in my career have always had the courage to be imperfect, had the courage to be human and show their humanity and vulnerability in a setting, in a work setting. So when you are authentic as a leader, you unlock that environment and create that safety and culture for your teams and your employees in order also to be vulnerable and authentic and inclusive. Second, I was invited to apply to be on the board of directors, or be on basically. I'm a governor at University of Toronto, and when I was invited to apply for that position, this was like about 6 years ago. I was very nervous. I thought, well, why am I being invited to apply? Like all the other alumni who are governors are all middle-aged white men, and here I was, a 33-year-old, graduated from university, and just starting off in my career. So why am I being invited? Am I being portrayed as a diversity token? Am I just going there to because this I look the part that they want, etc. And when I did get elected, the chair of the body that elects alumni governors, he came up to me during one of the reception meetings, and he said that, Samra, if you're wondering that you're here because of your gender or your skin color or your age, then throw that thought out of the window, because yes, we wanted more diversity in the application pool, but you are here because you deserve to be here, and you were put through the same rigorous interview process and everything else that went along with it, and you are here because you were shining head and shoulders above everybody else, and we need your perspective and we want your voice on this table. And that really helped unlock my voice in those settings, because up until then I may not have had the courage to be myself. Like I would have probably gone into the meeting and think, okay, I have to just behave like everyone else and talk like everyone else. But when he said that to me, it really unlocked something in me, and it taught me that yes, my unique perspectives are valid and what I bring to the table is different, and that's why it's valid. So my strength lies in my uniqueness and my ability to be different than everybody else. So eventually I did, I was able to like then raise my voice and talk about things that were important to me at those meetings, and I still do. And it's been 6 years now that I've been in that position, and I try to create that safety and that space for everybody else as well. So be authentic, be deliberate. And second and thirdly, I want to share some a quick tidbit that I really employ as a leader myself, that create some time in your meetings or in your monthly sort of routines, etc., to carve out time that do not have anything to do with work, and that time is for human conversations. So for example, out of our monthly or weekly meeting and say, okay, this is a time for no shop talk. All we're going to do is talk about human stuff. And you can share things. You can share an article about racism. You can share something about mental health. You can share something about, something else that's of interest and of value to us as human beings, and that sparks a conversation, and that sort of like teaches your team that, oh, it's okay to have this conversation at work. If I'm going through something, it doesn't mean that I have to leave it out the door. Like, when you share something about, like, one time I shared an article about mental health, and it was amazing to see how many of my team members were able to talk about their own struggles, or the fact that they're supporting their children through these struggles, or their family through these struggles. So it really opens the door for that conversation, and you see people connecting in different ways. And I saw that, a couple of my team members who probably have never had this conversation because they've never really worked on a project together, but now they were becoming friends because they connected on a human issue that affected them both. So that creates a camaraderie and a trust in the team and in the workplace, that allows people to really be who they are, and understand that they don't need to leave bits and pieces of themselves at the door when they show up to work. And these conversations are welcome at work, because these conversations are important, and they are human. And as leaders, first of all, we're human beings. And I think, as to even from a diversity and inclusion perspective, we cannot have an inclusive workplace if our employees don't feel safe at work, and we cannot have a mental and emotional well-being at work if people are not able to bring their inclusive selves to work. So it goes hand in hand. So if you want cultures and workplaces that are healthy and happy, and progressive, then we need to be very, very conscious about building inclusivity and equity into our workplaces. And lastly, I want to talk about self care. And sometimes, when we are having these sort of difficult or triggering conversations, like, for example, the past year and a half, we have had a lot of light, rightly so, on diversity, on inclusion, in the wake of what had the torture and murder of George Floyd, and other things that have happened in the last couple of years. They have really unlocked a lot of trauma for a lot of us, right? We see ourselves in some of these conversations. We feel that we need to be maybe we need to speak up for certain topics. And when we speak up for difficult things, whether it is at work or in our personal lives or among friends and family, we often get affected. And this is normal. We're human beings. Like, I have been sharing my story for many years now. And every time I share my story, it's not like I just get up and do it. It affects me. And that's normal. That's natural, because it's something painful in my past that I choose to keep sharing to help other people, because I know that what I went through is not unique. And I first need to take care of myself and help myself as well. So whenever we're having these kinds of triggering or difficult conversations, it's important to come at it from a place of, put your own oxygen mask first. If it's starting to affect us, if it's starting to trigger us in any way, it's important to take a step back. And it's okay to have some self-care built in. In fact, it's better. I believe in proactive self-care. A lot of us, only think about self-care when we are experiencing burnout, or when we're like sort of at the end of our rope. But actually, proactive self care is really important, because that's when we're really making sure that we are taking care of ourselves before we reach burnout. And that's happened to me as well, because, like, for years I was doing this work and I was like putting all this emotional labor in, and I felt like I was just reaching burnout. And every time I would reach that stage, then I would like sort of step back, and I would like, okay, I need a break for a day or two. But now, with everything that I have going on and everything that I've learned in my life, I carve out me time or self-care time in my calendar. And there are some weeks that are tough. Like right now I'm in medical school, and there are times when I go for days without taking a break, because I'm just studying all the time, or I'm doing other things, and I also run a business, and I also have kids. So it's difficult, but be deliberate about it. And when I kind of have like these 4 or 5 days of like not getting any time, I make sure that, I carve out a morning or a couple of hours or whatever to do something that is purely for me. And whether it's going for a walk, whether it's going for a drive or reading a book or anything else that brings you joy and brings you comfort. It could even just be sitting at home and watching a movie and drinking hot chocolate, like anything that kind of gets you away from your grind. It's very, very important. So especially when you're in a leadership role and you're having these difficult conversations, you're taking care of your team and you're taking care of other people, always remember to take care of yourself. Not only is it important for your team, but you're also role modeling that behavior for your family and for your employees and for your colleagues. So that's sort of all I had on this topic. And like I said, I try to keep these live sessions brief and concise, because I don't want people to get bored, first of all. And I think it's also important to just kind of respect everyone's time. And I'm really grateful that all of you take the time out every Friday to be with me on this journey and to learn and share together. So I'm looking at the comments. I don't see any questions or anything, but keep the conversation going. Some of you will watch this later, so keep connecting with each other, keep sharing ideas. Write to me as well and share with me what you would like me to talk about. Give me ideas of topics for next week and the week after, etc. I do this every Friday and I really have a lot of fun with it. So this is really your time. And I'm here to answer any questions, and feel free to type them in the chat box or in the comments or DM me or whatever, and we'll take up some new topic next week. And until then, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.